I'm frequently asked, what is the one thing that I can do to improve my health? And it's a great question. It absolutely is. And I understand the motivation behind, let's keep it simple. Let's just do one thing. The truth of the matter, this is not, clickbait. So at the end of this, I'm actually going to give you a few things that I feel are truly deeply important to make sure you're doing to improve your health. But it is a compilation of things that occur that create ill health, and so it only makes sense that there's not just a single thing. So there's not that one smoking gun. And the difference between root cause medicine and conventional medicine is that that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that one disease and then the drug or the surgery that treats that system, that disease, that syndrome that is found. And so that's how we get into this, one smoking gun, one source. And there has to be a few levels that one looks at because they work together. So what are some of the things we look at? We definitely look at what you're putting in your mouth. It only makes sense that the food you're ingesting is having a major either benefit or liability to your health. And unfortunately, here in the U.S., the standard American diet is horrific. It's only getting worse, and it's definitely impacting our health. But what else? Then there's infections. So this is not an acute infection like, oh, I have a fever, I think I have the flu. These are deep infections, typically in the gut, and we find them doing stool analyses where these are deep-seated infections that you've had for a long time, and sometimes they're viral infections as well that you've had for a long time. So within infections, there's bacteria, parasites, protozoa, viruses are included in that. And so we look for these because they can be very chronic. They've been there for a long time. And what they're doing is they're really pulling at your immune system and preventing you from enjoying robust health. The food is impacting you on a daily basis. These chronic infections have been there and they're just, again, pulling at your immune system. They can be one of the root causes of autoimmune disease, as an example. The third thing we look at is toxins. So toxins such as mold exposure, heavy metal exposure. Sometimes it can be other types of toxins you're exposed to as well, whether it's part of your job or, as a child. My husband grew up on a farm in Iowa, so they didn't know better as far as, all the pesticides and things they were putting on crops, and they would just, play around in the pesticides. So things like that, and also, of course, there's the daily toxic exposure of just chemicals that we're assaulted with in our environment. But these toxins are another burden. So they're another burden on the body that we look for so that we can then get you to starting to excrete those toxins safely. And it's interesting because if you just go in and say, oh, you've got a lot of mercury in your body, let's do some chelation and pull that mercury out, that can be a terrible idea, because if you're trying to excrete a toxin, so in order to excrete it, you're sort of mobilizing it, you're pulling it out of tissues, and then you're asking your body to excrete it. Well, what if you've got a terrible diet and you have these infections in your gut? These are the excretory, organs, the gut, the kidneys, and if they're overburdened, then you mobilize this toxin and you're really in a mess. So it's very important to know the precise methodology and not put the cart before the horse, to do it in the right order of things. And the fourth thing, so there's only four that I'm discussing today, is just basic lifestyle. So we talked about food, but what about, are you getting an exercise at all? Are you drinking enough water? What are your sleep habits like? Things like that. How are you managing stress in your life? So these are all things that we talk about when we're looking at basic lifestyle. So when it was funny, I was talking to a new patient today, and she goes, so basically you're going to tell me change my diet, take some supplements, and that's kind of it. I was just like, well, it's not that we probably won't tell you to change your diet, and it's probably not that supplements won't be a part of your program. But one really does it a disservice to try to put it in that little package, because how you got to where you are with your ill health is very different than how somebody else got there. And that personalized, tailored approach is what gives us the success rate that we have. And she gave a cute analogy. She was like, oh, so it's tailored, kind of like, you buy a suit off the rack versus, the movie star that has the suit totally tailored to their body and they look fabulous, but the same suit not tailored to somebody's body wouldn't look nearly as well. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good analogy, because it is personalized, tailor-made care. And the other thing that a lot of times people say is, it's like, well, I tried some dietary change, I tried some supplements, and I hear that all the time. And it's not necessarily that what they did was wrong, it just wasn't enough. We have a very simple viewpoint about health here, which is, one, the body knows how to repair itself, it's very good at it. And two, if you do enough of the right things, you don't even have to do everything, but if you do enough of the right things to unburden the body, it will change, it will start to heal, it will improve, and it'll give you that feedback of, yes, you're doing the right thing, keep going. And it's a simple viewpoint, but after 40 years, it has stood us in very good stead. It's proved to be exceedingly accurate, and by the same token, we've learned the tenacity of, if things are not changing, we've missed something. And we go after it. Versus conventional medicine, what I hear over and over and over again, and I'm not down on all conventional medicine, don't get me wrong, but there's certain aspects of it that does annoy me. And so with conventional medicine, I often hear, it's like, listen, we tested you, we looked at your blood, we did an MRI, you're fine. And they're telling this person they're fine when the person has, these 6 different symptoms that are literally debilitating them. And it's rude, it's unfair to the person, it's rude, they're not making it up, they really have these symptoms, and just because what you've done thus far has not revealed the answer doesn't mean there isn't an answer. So I hope that helped a little bit in at least what root cause medicine is, and now some key things you can do. What is the one thing you can do? I think a really important thing is to eat real food. And so, food as much in its native state as possible. Boy, our grocery bills, have increased about 60% in the last couple of years. It's astonishing. And so I was thinking about that today. I think I'm going to do a separate video, but Americans on average, they're eating more than 60% of their food is processed food, and sometimes that can be cheaper, but it's certainly not cheaper in the long run as far as your health is concerned. So eating fresh fruits, eating vegetables, eating pasture-raised eggs, well, they're really expensive. Okay, but what if you weren't buying the soda, and you weren't buying the cookies, and you weren't buying the chips? Think about all the things that you don't have to buy because they're not real food. Then you can spend a bit more on the real food and enjoy better health. So if I could say real food, I could say make sure you're hydrated, and then sneak in a third and say move your body, get some exercise. Those would be my tips. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you want to hear about, and I'll see you tomorrow.